So we now know the 32 clubs that make up this year's Europa League, and we of course now know the groups that make up this year's competition. But which teams will go through to the knockout stages? Which teams will go home? We're going to take a little look next. Prediction video. Today we're taking a look at the Europa League group stages, and of course we'll take a look each and every one of the groups over the next few days, and we'll get to that in a second. Of course, if you're new, where you been, smash your subscribe button, bounty, all things Rovers related, Europa League related, world football related. We're going to all here, boys, under one Ruski. That's right. Of course, we are going to be taking a look at each and every one of the match days for the Europa League. That's of course to be had in the future, of course. But today, here and now, we're going to start, of course, our series, of course, and taking a look at each and every one of the Europa League groups, and we'll get to that in a second. Of course, big shout out to my VIPs. They are the patrons, of course. You know who you are. But let's waste no more further ado and jump in the deep end, of course. Take a look at what we're talking about. Alrighty then, folks, let's take a look at Group B over in this year's Europa League, and let's take a look at the clubs that make up this group, starting with Ajax, of course, from the Eredivisie. They're joined by Marseille from Ligue 1. Brighton of Albion, of course, are into the Europe for appear the first time, and of course, they're joined by AEK Athens from the Superliga. Alrighty then, folks, let's take a look at this one then, shall we? It's Group B, and there's some bangers in here. We kick it off with a banger with Ajax against Marseille. Of course, Ajax are going through the motions here, trying to do a bit of a rebuild since Ten Hag has left. Of course, they were shit last year in the Dutch leagues. Can they be good here in the Europa League? Of course, with a second season under the new regime. That's right. I do think they'll open up with a 2-1 win over Marseille, who will be difficult to beat here, especially, of course, in the games coming out to the south of France. Meanwhile, Brighton will get themselves also off to a fantastic start with a 2-0 win over Athens, of course, making the European bow their debut. And of course, a lot of talk on Brighton these days, potentially maybe even make a push to better things this season if everything goes their way. Into match number 2 we go, and it'll be Athens hosting Ajax over in the Mediterranean. That's right. I do think it'll be a 1-0 win for Ajax. I think it'll be too strong for Athens, who I think could be a bit of a weapon boy this time around in this group. Meanwhile, Marseille will host Brighton. I'm going to go with a draw here. I think Brighton have got a really good coach, really good team, good community at the moment. I think everything seems to be ticking off nicely for them behind the scenes. Marseille, though, not too sure about them at the minute. Again, not the greatest start with them. Of course, back-to-back games now without a win. But can they turn that around in match number 3, 26th of October? They'll take on Athens. They'll get to winning ways. 3-0 win. And again, continue that unbeaten start over in the south of France. Meanwhile, probably Brighton's biggest game will be against Ajax. And they'll get a draw. I think a draw on the road at home for them at the Amex puts them in an okay position for this group. Unbeaten thus far, a win and a couple of draws up against, of course, an Ajax side also unbeaten, who of course picked up a couple of wins and a draw. As we break the back of it, we go to the Dutchlands, we go to Amsterdam, and we go Ajax hosting Brighton. Unfortunately, not going to be good enough. I think Brighton on this one. I think Ajax intimidating place to go, good because they are a juggernaut. Again, falling on their knees a little bit in recent times, but I do think they'll be too strong for Brighton at home. Meanwhile, Athens will host Marseille, and a chance for them to get a result, but unfortunately, it will only be a draw. That's right. Another point in the bag for Marseille, as I think it's going to be a straight shootout for Brighton and Marseille for that second spot. We'll see in just a second. Of course, Athens will then host Brighton over in the Mediterranean, and there'll be another draw. Goodness gracious me. So, again, Brighton looking at this as an okay sort of performance, a point in the bag, but realistically, not really blowing teams away. It's still been good enough to be in consideration for at least the playoffs, but I think right now it's going to be a toss-up between themselves and maybe Ajax for top spots, because Ajax will lose on match number 5 themselves on the 30th of November to give Marseille a glimmer of hope, and again continue their unbeaten run in the south of France. So a couple of wins and a draw to boot. As we edit into the final game, Ajax will host Athens over in Amsterdam, and they will come out on top with a 2-0 win to leave Brighton and Marseille, I think, for a straight shootout to see who will keep themselves in the Europa League competitions heading into the knockout or the playoffs, should we say. And it's going to be a title affair. I'm going to give it to Brighton, though, with a 1-0 win for them. 14th of December. Put it in your calendar to see if they will go through. That's, of course, my take. Let's take a look at the bookies then, shall we, as we look forward to seeing what's going on in Group B. The bookies have. We have Athens at 14-1 to be favoured to qualify here. 7-2 is your Ajax. third favourites here. Of course, Marseille 9-4. Second favourites, Brighton 11-10. They are favoured to win this one, but I don't think it's going to be that simple. Of course, we've got the same one at fourth spot. I've got Athens there, just 2 points on the board for them. I've got Marseille in third spot, of course, with 8 points on the board, but Brighton in second with 9. They'll go through to the playoffs, and of course, Ajax will await to see who joins them in the next round. Top of the table for me on this one. There you have it, folks. There you bloody have it. There's, of course, my early door prediction for this group over in the Europa League. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down below, of course. And, of course, make sure you smash your thumbs up and smash your subscribe button. Your one-stop shop for Europa League continues, of course, throughout the rest of the week and, of course, into the future as we look forward to those early door match days. But that, my friends, is all what I've got for you. Make sure you subscribe, thumbs up, hit the little bell. Of course, let me know down below who you think out of this group will qualify through the knockout stages. Of course, until then, guys, subscribe, thumbs up, and I'll catch you later for the next one.